It was the season of Passover in Jerusalem, and the city was bursting with pilgrims. The air was thick with expectation, not just for the annual feast, but for something more. Word had spread that Jesus of Nazareth, the miracle worker from Galilee, was coming to the city. As Jesus and his disciples approached Jerusalem, he paused at the Mount of Olives. He sent 2 of them ahead to a nearby village, telling them, "You will find a donkey tied there, with her colt beside her. Untie them and bring them to me." They did as he said. Jesus mounted the colt, fulfilling the prophecy of Zechariah. "Behold, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey." As he rode toward the city, a great crowd gathered. People laid cloaks on the road and cut branches from trees, palm branches, and waved them high, shouting, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." The whole city was stirred. Some asked, "Who is this?" Others whispered, "This is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth of Galilee." But not everyone rejoiced. Among the crowd were Pharisees who saw the commotion with suspicion. They demanded he silence the people. Jesus replied, "I tell you, if they keep silent, the very stones will cry out." As he drew near and saw the city, Jesus wept. "If only you had known on this day what would bring you peace, but now it is hidden from your eyes." The next day, Jesus entered the temple courts and was enraged by what he saw. Money changers, merchants, and animals crowded the sacred space. He overturned the tables and drove them out. "My house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations, but you have made it a den of thieves," he exclaimed. This act drew the fury of the chief priests and scribes. From that moment on, they began plotting to destroy him, but they feared the crowds who hung on his every word. Over the next days, Jesus taught in the temple parables of the kingdom, denunciations of hypocrisy, warnings of judgment. He spoke with divine authority, silencing even the most cunning traps of the Pharisees and Sadducees. He foretold the fall of Jerusalem and prophesied his return in glory. He warned of coming persecution and called his followers to remain faithful and watchful. Each evening, he returned to the Mount of Olives to pray, while by day he taught in the courts of God. But among his own disciples, darkness had entered one heart. Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went secretly to the chief priests and offered to betray Jesus. They were glad and counted out 30 silver coins, the price of a slave. Judas agreed and looked for the right moment to hand Jesus over when the crowd wasn't around. On the night of Passover, Jesus gathered with his disciples in an upper room. He knew the hour had come. As they reclined at the table, Jesus took the unleavened bread, blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them and said, "This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in memory of me." Then he took a cup of wine and said, "This is the cup of my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant, poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins." They did not yet understand. Then Jesus looked around the room and said, "One of you will betray me." The disciples were troubled and asked one by one, "Is it I, Lord?" Judas too asked, and Jesus answered, "You have said it." Then, as they lingered in the upper room, Peter turned to Jesus and declared, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." Jesus looked at him and said, "Truly I tell you, Peter, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." Peter replied, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then they sang a hymn and went out to the Mount of Olives. They came to a quiet garden called Gethsemane. Jesus told his disciples, "Sit here while I go and pray." He took Peter, James, and John with him and said, "My soul is sorrowful, even unto death. Stay awake with me." He went a little farther, fell to the ground, and cried out, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." 3 times he prayed. 3 times he returned to find his disciples asleep. Then, torches in the darkness, a crowd with swords and clubs, Judas stepped forward and kissed him. Jesus said, "Judas, would you betray the Son of Man with a kiss?" Jesus was seized. Peter drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. But Jesus said, "Put your sword away," and he healed the man. Then they all fled. Jesus was taken to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. There the Sanhedrin met in secret, trying to find charges against him. False witnesses rose up, but their testimonies didn't agree. Finally, the high priest asked, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" Jesus answered, "I am, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven." They tore their garments. "Blasphemy!" they cried. Meanwhile, Peter had followed at a distance. In the courtyard, someone said, "You were with him." 3 times Peter denied it, and then the rooster crowed. Peter wept bitterly. At dawn, they brought Jesus to Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor. Pilate found no fault in him, but the crowd pressed him. To pacify them, Pilate offered to release one prisoner, Jesus, or Barabbas, a violent rebel. They shouted for Barabbas. "Then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called the Christ?" shouted Pilate. "Crucify him," they shouted. Pilate washed his hands, declaring, "I am innocent of this man's blood," but he gave the order. Jesus was scourged, mocked by Roman soldiers who dressed him in a purple robe, pressed a crown of thorns on his head, and bowed before him in cruel mockery. They forced him to carry his cross through the narrow streets to a hill called Golgotha, the place of the skull. There they nailed him to the cross. He prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Darkness covered the land from noon until 3. One criminal crucified beside him mocked. The other said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus replied, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." He looked down at his mother Mary and the disciple John and said, "Woman, behold your son." And to his disciple, "Behold your mother." Then with a loud voice he cried, my God, Why have you forsaken me? It is finished. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." He breathed his last, and the earth shook. The curtain of the temple was torn in two. The Roman centurion declared, "Truly, this man was the Son of God."